Hey, good morning, everybody. Hello, Mason. Hi, Gavin. Hey, Sophia. Hi, Chloe. I'm saying hi to my kids because I wonder if someday they're going to watch this. And that's the main reason I do these videos. That's the main reason, is to encourage and offer some, hopefully, long-lasting, documented advice from their father. I have friends and family that will pop on here because one of the most exciting things for me personally is when I see other immensely successful people that will reiterate things that I've thought about or do, and they're like, you should do this, and here's what I do, and I'm like, man, I'm doing that. Wow. And I think that person is worth $1 billion or $100 million or whatever. And if they're thinking that way, then I go, man, I'm finally getting it. Unfortunately, we only get about 100 years if we're lucky, right? And some of us have a lot less time. And even if we do live to 100, we're not going to be as productive, right? At probably, I think, at 80, 90, and 100 if we're blessed to live that long. So as I've gotten older, I've appreciated the time much more than I squandered it in my youth. Famous quote, I don't know who said it, but my English teacher, Ron Cradell, at North Providence High School. That was my senior year. And I was in Florida before that, but I went 1 year to North Providence High School. And before that, I was at a Florida high school. Anyway, but Ron said, youth is wasted on the young. I never forgot that. And it stuck with me because I was like, what does that mean? Well, when you're youthful, right, you have energy, your flexibility, you have the sense of invincibility, you have time, the probability of having more time, and you have this youthfulism, right? But when you're younger, you're not really thinking about when you're 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, because the time is gone by. You can't get the time back. So, the whole sense of being youthful is wasted sometimes, I guess a lot of times. That's where the phrase is coined, is because of squandering that. Just like money. Sometimes people inherit money or win the lottery, and you hear those stories time and time again where they come into this fortune, but they end up broke. They end up I don't know, Mike Tyson comes to mind, Nicolas Cage, who else? I mean, MC Hammer. I don't know. There's a lot of people that were artists or athletes, Dennis Rodman, people that were different facets of life, but nobody taught them about money. And when they got it, because they had an amazing talent or ability or product or service, they weren't able to manage the money, and they lost it all. So I think that when you recognize that you're on the right path, when you're going in the right direction, it's a good path to be on. And that's why I always say I'm trying to talk to my kids, because if anything, they would think, and if you're listening, whether you're a friend of mine or an acquaintance, is I have their best interest in mind. My dad and my grandfather, or I should say my father, my real father, I barely knew. He struggled, he had a rough life, and I'm not making excuses, but I barely knew the guy. And when he died, I didn't even know. He was so absent in my life that when he did call me to kind of say goodbye, so to speak, I didn't even take his call because I didn't think nothing of it, and I missed it, and I felt kind of bad after. I felt bad after that I missed that, because in the end, we all have our shortcomings. I would have preferred to say goodbye to my father, but I didn't know him. But he never taught me really anything I could remember, and the same thing, my grandfather was present. He was a wonderful man, taking the place of my dad, or trying to, and a lot of who I am today, through all my turmoil in my younger years, is because my grandfather was present. So he didn't teach me any lessons about money because he didn't know anything about money. He didn't. And he worked until he passed away. He was working in his 70s. And he got sick. He passed away at 79 years old. And I couldn't tell you his financial situation. I know he didn't have much of anything. He had sold his house, he had refinanced his house, and he went to a retired assisted living place, which a lot of elderly people do. So I'm like, I don't want to make that mistake. Having a good heart, I think, is important. Being kind and doing the right thing, I think, is really important. I believe in karma. I believe that you reap what you sow, like the Bible says. But I think you got to pay attention, and it's up to you to learn. So my grandfather lived the whole lifetime, and though he was a good man, he didn't leave anything to help. He didn't have much of anything financially to leave for his wife, his children, his grandchildren. There's no financial legacy, just the memory of a good man. Which, nothing wrong with that. But if you want to take care of your kids, like I hope to, I'm going to continue to make mistakes throughout the rest of my life, but I don't want to make the same ones over and over again. So my thought this morning as we go through this current, I believe, seems to be we're in a recession, and all the economic, or I guess the economic climate, you would call it, of all the things going on, which I don't want to just go on about. There's enough of that on the news and on the internet that you could listen to if you want to. I try to offer some positivity to the situation. And when I trade stocks, trade meaning swing trade, or invest, right? Meaning like I'll buy and hold for the most part, and I have a little bit of money that I flip stocks because I enjoy it. I enjoy the action. Just like somebody goes to a card game in Vegas, or where I am, you got the Mohegan, Foxwoods, and what is it called? Encore, right? Never been there actually, but I don't look at it like gambling, so to speak, because there are companies that go up and down. So depending on your strategy, you can make and lose money. But every day that you're on the road, you're gambling. I'm driving, and as long as I'm paying attention, using my proper turn signals, right? All my braking lights and work and everything else, then the probabilities of alerting a driver behind me if I slow down and stopping, he'll know if he or she's paying attention that the car is coming to a stop, and hopefully they won't run into me. And if I'm looking at the road, then I would think that I can pay attention to what is in front of me. And also, as I'm backing up here, I'm looking in my rear view camera and my mirrors to make sure I don't back up into the rocks that are behind me. So it is important to pay attention to your environment and things that are happening, but ultimately there's the risk that things happen that are out of your control. I cannot control the weather. I cannot control the road conditions, like meaning if there's a pothole I didn't know about, if there's something that fell out of somebody's truck that's in the road, unless I use Waze, and sometimes it'll give me a little warning that there's something ahead. But if I don't know that the road conditions are bad for whatever the reason, the weather or just something unexpected, I have to just be ready to hopefully react to that. And I can't control the drivers. Like, I can try to be a defensive driver and watch out what other people are doing, but in the end, I don't know if they are going to come smash into me, and I don't have anywhere to go. I just hopefully have my seatbelt on, and I'll be able to avoid being hurt or worse. So there's a lot of risk every day when you're driving and there's oncoming traffic. If you ever go, when you go down those roads, there's cars passing you. I see people on their bikes, people walking. Sometimes I'll see people at nighttime walking with no light, no little light, no reflector. They're wearing dark clothes. And there's a few times where I came close, man, where I almost hit somebody. They came out of nowhere, right? I'm just like, wow, what's wrong with you? Do you want to get hit by a car? So those people could avoid getting hit if they would wear something reflective or something that blinks or something like that. I mean, that's just what I'm saying. Like, you can eliminate probabilities of disaster. But if you're investing in stocks, options, cryptocurrencies, real estate, anything, right? A new business that you're starting, a new product or service that you're doing, you're trying to mitigate certain risks, because there's always risks. There's always unexpected things. You can have a checklist of things where, this, and this can happen, and you're prepared for that. Then, of course, you've cut the percentages of something worse happening than being totally unprepared. Say jumping in your car going on a road trip, and if there's no gas stations and you have a gas-powered car or an electric car, then you run the risk of running out of fuel and being stranded. What if you have no signal, to call somebody for help? I mean, there's things that you got to have a strategy and prepare yourself for, and that's what I've learned today. But I really like the idea of, when you're investing, having diversification. And I'm not trying to sound fancy. I'm just saying that, like, if I put all my money in one company, everything, Tesla, one sector, one company, then great. If it goes up, I'm rewarded. But if it goes belly up or something bad happens and it lasts a long time, and everything I have is invested in that company, in that stock, then I'm going to be in for some real hardships. So diversity to me is, Mason, is just basically saying, let me take a little bit of money every week that I can afford, whether you make, you gross $200, $500, $5,000, $50,000, $5 million, whatever your amount of money is that you're getting. Granted, the larger amount of money you have, the better your options and ability and empowerment to do more stuff. But you should still be paying yourself. Now, I've heard all different things, like you should pay yourself, what's his name? Grant Cardone says 40%. Kevin O'Leary says 10%. So, obviously both those guys are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So, what I think is just an opinion. But I want to pay myself at least 30%, 20 to 30%. And I have to make some sacrifices. Like, I could go out and get a $150,000 car if I wanted to. And I'm not saying that because I'm cool or I'm bragging, but I don't really need it. And I don't have $100 million. Maybe if I had $100 million, but I just, I'm like, I'm okay with this car. I said in another video, I'm buying out a lease that's going to be about 15 grand. And the car has 46,000 miles, and I'll get another 3 years out of it. Maybe I'll give it to my son, or my younger son, Gavin. But I don't know. But I know that it's a much better investment. There's other things I could do with my money than to throw it into a $100,000 to $150,000 car for me. So I try to pay myself of whatever I have, whether it's from my job that I work 45 hours ish a week to 50 hours, or if I work make money from my other passive income things like real estate, right? And primarily that's it. So, real estate stuff. And I do make money from trading stocks, but I just keep reinvesting that stuff. So, but whatever money I have, I try to pay myself first and say, okay, I'm going to put this money aside. And of that money, I'll have a percentage that I'm like, this is for a rainy day, an emergency. And my wife is really good at that. London's really good at that. But if I don't have those reserves packed up, right? Like, I'm like, all right, just think of a game, and you gotta go you get to that level, right? And then I'm like, all right, great, I've hit that level. And then I have this next level where I'm like, okay, every week I'm paying myself. I'm disciplined to say, okay, every week I'm going to take 10% or 20% or whatever you want to make that number. Just like if every morning you brush your teeth and every morning you take a shower, right? Which is my routine, right? I take a shower every day because it wakes me up. I feel fresh, right? And gets me going. I brush my teeth every day. And, there's just certain things that you get in a habit that are good things to do that hopefully you can do. It's your routine. It's the same thing when you get your paycheck or your payouts or your dividends or whatever that thing is that you generate some extra money where you're like, okay, I have my savings. Then I have my bills that I have to cover, whatever those bills might be, gas, electric, water, rent, mortgage, car payment, insurance, phone bill, right? All those things. And then I have this extra money. And do I go out and just buy dumb stuff I don't need or, blow it on stuff? I mean, I think it's good to go have some fun, but there's also an excess where you kind of like, I did that younger. I just, every week was a party, like every week for me was what club, what bar, going out, what stuff am I going to buy? I was buying stuff. I bought clothes I never even wore. I bought shoes and I buy drinks and food like every night. I mean, instead of going shopping, grocery shopping, I was very frivolous with my money because I was like, I'll just earn it again. I'll earn it again. I'll earn it again. It was like, earn it, spend it, earn it, spend it, and it was just a routine. So because nobody taught me about saving or money or investments or ETFs or bonds, or index funds or getting into real estate at a younger age and that type of stuff. So if you can figure that out now, if you can at least listen to what I'm saying and do it for yourself, become a billionaire, become a millionaire, not because that's going to make you a better person, but at least it'll take care of some things and give you more freedoms and abilities like to travel, right? To provide, empowerment. Just if you have $100,000 or $1 million in your bank account, let alone far more, right? You're going to have better options if you're $50,000 in debt, right, or $100,000 in debt. And I've been there, right, where you're like, my credit is shot, I have no money, I'm in debt. It makes you worrisome, anxious, fearful. It strains your relationships. It causes you to. It could affect your health. It could affect people around you. It could affect people you work with. It takes away your confidence. These are things that I experienced when I was going through that stuff. And I don't want to be like that. I mean, I don't want to feel that way. Hey, God willing, right? I make the right choices. Again, I'm not motivated by money. I'm not motivated primarily by money, right? I have a different mindset to the greater, eternity type things. But while I'm here, I'm going to do the best that I can and do better than I've done. And I think that having some diversification in your portfolio. And now, if you're 20 years old, like Mason, my son, as I do this video, which is September 2nd, 2022. Mason, you'll be 21 soon. And next month, right? Yeah, next month. Yeah, next month. I had to think about that for a second. This is the chance for you, 20-year-old, to start these habits right now. And at least you could say, hey, at least my dad or at least Jamie mentioned it. And here's a guy who, I do all right, but I could be so much further ahead, if I wasn't banging my head against the wall and hitting every pothole, there's like actually staring into all these problems. If I just would have been paying attention and had better advice or listened to some people that actually gave it to me, but I couldn't receive it. So I think diversification and taking some of this money that you get and investing in different things and figure out what you want to do. Like if you want to get into real estate, that's the biggest thing for me. I don't mean like I can't afford to buy a 200, 400 unit apartment. I know I like Grant Cardone, but I'm not at that point to do that. But it is on my horizon. In this, when I get, I'm in my late 40s as I approach 50 and in that time over the next few years, I think, hey, I'd like to do that if I'm allowed to, is get a 100 unit, 200 unit apartment complex. But I'm starting with smaller stuff. I've been doing smaller stuff over the past decade, and I'm trying to get prepared. And all those experiences have helped me, diversification, to prepare me. It's like a hand with no fingers, right? You have to have some ability to have some substance and strength to handle some of these other things that come up. So I have some properties that I've experienced, gone through some problems, I've learned, the learning curve, and they're affordable, right? And if you started with a property that you're going to live in, and then whether you're renting out a room or renting out a floor or the left side, if you have a duplex or a multifamily, then you're like, I'm going to live there anyway, so I might as well cut down some of my costs. And then you just replicate that a few times. If you're 20 years old or 25 years old or 30 years old, you're going to look back in 5-10 years. And I like to use that saying, if you're 20, the 30-year-old you will thank the 20-year-old. If you're 30 and the 40-year-old you will thank the 30-year-old for doing these things. And if you're taking some of your money, instead of just blowing it on dumb stuff you don't need, you could take some of that money and invest it into a portion into stocks, into a portion into cryptocurrencies. Like maybe it's 5% of that $100, maybe it's 5% of that $1,000 a month, or whatever that number is. You said, I'm going to keep buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche. Maybe I'll take a little bit and buy some speculative gambly type plays for fun, like I was going to say Dogecoin, Shiba Inu or something where you're like, like XRP. I've been buying XRP lately, but I take a little bit that I'm okay with losing, right? But I don't want to go in to lose. I'm just like, okay, this could have it's a higher, what do they call that? Like a higher risk. Like when you talk to a financial advisor, they'll say like, do you want to do medium risk, high risk? What's your tolerance level? They talk about stuff like that. So some people want to take really low risk stuff. If they're 60, 70 years old, right, they can't afford to lose that money because they can't earn it again most cases, right? So they're like, I have this money, I got to be careful. So I want it to be safe and get a safer return versus someone who takes some little higher risk or a portion of that. So, that's the things that I'm thinking about today is as I glance at the market's about to open here shortly. I glance at it, but I'm not looking at it like, oh, what's going on? I'm like panicking. I'm just like, hey, I'm just wondering what it's doing. Oh, it's up. That's awesome. But I'm not selling. Or, hey, it's down. That sucks. But I think it'll probably recover, right? Like, so it's just like those waves, literally like the ocean. They come in, they go out, they come in, they go out. It's just timing. So I'm over 20 minutes. I'm at the 21 minutes. So I'll stop rambling for the day. We'll go over some other stuff tomorrow, but I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow.